Alright guys, we have to be quiet so we don't disturb the baby.
Pull my heart out of my chest, train my mind so I forget. Sink your teeth into my bones, dig me out, then fill the hole.
Hello YouTube and welcome back to the channel. So for today's video we are going to be doing something a little bit different than what I have done before. Although I have done kind of a video like this, but for a different brand. But today we are going to be talking about the origins of a particular luxury brand that I have just gotten into, and that is Gucci. So all of the information that I am providing for you came from this book, which is Little Book of Gucci. I highly recommend this series. The video that I did on Louis Vuitton, a bunch of the information from it also came from this book, but the Louis Vuitton one, so the Little Book of Louis Vuitton. But I love these things. They're a quick and easy read. They go through like the history of the brand, and then they have some archive pictures of like different runways and notable people and everything. So anyway, that is where the information comes from in this video. And with that, let us jump into the history. All right, so the origins of Gucci are, they say that it started in Florence, but the main person, or one of the main people of our story, is Guccio Gucci. Like, what a name. He left Florence for Paris and then eventually settled in London, where he went to work at the Savoy Hotel as a bellboy, or a bellhop. Bellhop. And so while he was there, he, did what bellhops did and worked with luggage. And this really got him to learn about the wealthy class and their taste in fashion, what they liked in their fabrics for their luggage, and also their traveling conditions. And he also worked for a European rail company that was specializing in upscale travel. So kind of like Louis Vuitton, well, not kind of, like Louis Vuitton, he got his start in luggage because after World War I, he worked for a fine luggage maker named Franzi, I think is how you pronounce that. And then in 1921, he bought his own shop in Florence, and he sold imported leather luggage. And he also opened his own workshop to have his own leather goods made. And then he, expanded and got bigger. And then where a bunch of things happened is when the invasion of Ethiopia happened and Mussolini, was in the League of Nations and headed it, and he imposed a trade embargo on Italy. That will come up later in our story. But moving on from Guccio, his son Aldo really became fascinated with the family business and really got involved, and he started actually working in the Gucci store, or what Gucci's store was, in 1925, and actually convinced Guccio to open up a new shop in Rome. And he actually convinced him to launch accessories, so gloves, belts, wallets, keychains, things of that sort. And also during World War II, where I said a bunch of things happened, Gucci actually worked on the boots for the Italian infantry. So this happened a lot in World War II. Different companies and different things, had to postpone their own work and do stuff for the war. In the United States, the war effort became really popular with rationing and things like that. So that happened everywhere. So once World War II ended, Guccio distributed his shares of these companies to his three sons, who are Aldo, Vasco, and Rodolfo. And some controversy in the Gucci saga is that Aldo's son Giorgio actually sparked a family feud by launching a boutique of his own called Gucci Boutique. And it eventually was brought back into the family, but that caused some chaos. Moving into the 1980s, the Gucci saga eroded with the family. You know, the family had top management of the company, and you know, a lot of things happened to fuel the press. And this is where Paolo, who was the son of Aldo, which I believe it was him that was played by Jared Leto in House of Gucci. I could be wrong. If I am, I'll let you know. But he tried to launch his own brand too. So a lot of the Gucci people tried to make their own Gucci brands, but you know, nothing really happened with that. So everything was eventually consolidated in the Gucci group. Rodolfo died in 1983, and then his son Maurizio took over, and he launched a legal war against Aldo for full control of Gucci, which, fun fact, the prosecution was led by Rudolph Giuliani. Just throwing that out there. I thought that was interesting. And then after all of this, Aldo was left with only 16.7% of Gucci, and he was actually sentenced to a year in prison for tax evasion, so that's awesome. And in 1988, Maurizio sold almost half of his share of Gucci to a group called Investcorp, who actually were the owners of Tiffany. And then the other part that he had, he withheld. But the finances were still going, or the finances were horrible at this point. They were in the red, and Maurizio was blamed for spending a bunch of the company's money. And so Investcorp came in and bought that last 50% from him, so he was no longer involved familially with the group or as far as business goes. And then this is where the events, or some of the events in House of Gucci, transpire in March of 1995. I was only a month old, by the way. He was shot in the lobby of the Milan office of Gucci, and it eventually came out that his ex-wife, Patrizia, hired a hitman to murder him. So she served 16 years in jail. And then, just a little side note, was Tom Ford, Frida Gianni. You think I would be able to say that because I love fashion, but that's a mouthful. And then Alessandro Michele went on to become creative directors. And if you want to read about their part in making Gucci, specifically, I think Tom Ford and Alessandro Michele really had the biggest impact on Gucci. But definitely pick up this book. I wanted to leave a little something for you all to read for yourself. And honestly, as much as I love history, I was wanting to get through all of this part so we can talk about the more juicy parts of Gucci. Well, besides murder and tax evasion and stuff, that's pretty juicy, but the part that interests me the most. All right, so the next part of this is the part that really excites me, and that is some of the little fashion history involved with Gucci. And for some of this, I will be using my Gucci bag. I actually might bring another one out too, just to show. But what I want to talk about first on this is, well, before I do that, Aldo came up with a lot of stuff at Gucci that is around today. So for example, he was actually the one that came up with this pattern that you see. This is the Gigi motif, and so I didn't know this. I just thought that the G stood for Gucci and they were trying to do like Chanel with the double C's, but he took the double G's from Guccio Gucci, you know, his dad's name, the one who came up with Gucci, and put them in this interlocking pattern. And then with the little dots, that makes a diamond. So I thought that that was really interesting. And then one of the biggest things, like I said, was during World War II, there was an embargo put on Italy, so they had a lot of material shortages. So this led Guccio to experiment with different fabrics, and he eventually settled on a woven plain hemp fabric from Naples, which the company's first signature pattern was put. And I didn't know this either, but Gucci is famous for using having bamboo as handles. And I always wondered where that idea came from, because I was like, that is such a random thing to put on a handbag. But it actually came from the embargo. Like, they had a semicircular cane handle of bamboo, and they used that for handles when they couldn't get leather, and that's where the bamboo bag came from. So that's how Gucci has kept that going on. And the original bag that was used for the bamboo bag was shaped like a horse's saddle, which horseware, equestrian themes is a big part of Gucci and their, what's the word I'm looking for? Like their aesthetic, I guess. Aldo, once again, comes up with something that is a major part of Gucci. In 1953, he created the infamous horse-bit loafer. And so he actually added, you know, the equestrian embellishments, like a gilded metal snaffle in the shape of a mouthpiece on the horse's bridle. This is a piece that I am dying to put in my collection, but I don't know if I could spend over $1,000 on a pair of shoes. Like, a handbag is one thing, you know, you carry it, you put stuff in it, but shoes go on your feet and they go on the ground and everything is dirty. No matter how much you wash your feet, they're still disgusting because of sweat and dirt and everything. And it's just, I don't know if I could spend that much on a pair of shoes, but I would love to have a pair of Gucci loafers just because they are so iconic. But something else that we're going to be using my bag for is this pattern right here. Is actually another equestrian inspired creation, and that is because it was inspired by the girth that circles a horse's body to hold the saddle on its back. But the colors that are, you know, epitomous with Gucci, the green, red, green, these are said to have been chosen because they resemble traditional British fox hunting jackets, and then the stripe itself is close to like military medal ribbons or school scars for public school children and things like that. I do want to bring out another bag that I have. I think I've talked about this on the channel before, but this is one of my most prized possessions, and it looks a little beat up, but I will tell you why. This is a Gucci Boston bag, and as you can see, it has that GG motif on it. And this one has the stripe too, but this one is blue and red. Gucci is known for experimenting with different colors on this, so they will have, I'm trying to think of some other motifs that they come up with, but the most popular are the navy red and then the green and red. Why I said that this bag is one of my most special pieces, but this is one of my most special pieces because this is actually my mom's. This was the first Gucci bag that she ever bought. She bought herself this from the Gucci store in Chicago in the 80s, and she has graciously passed it down to me, and I really need to get a bag insert and like a bottom to put in this thing because it's so old from the 80s. It has kind of lost its shape, but I still carry this thing. I love it because, you know, it's from my mom and she passed it down to me, and now vintage is really in right now. So yeah, that is my other Gucci bag. And fun fact, they don't say this because I went to the Gucci store and they didn't tell me this, but when my mom went to the Gucci store to buy this bag, the sales associate actually told her that when you place it down, you are to cross the handles. So I have done that ever since with bags. Like when I store them, well, this one I have to keep the handles down at first, but then I end up crossing them. So you can see this one, like when I held it up, I have it crossed when I'm not carrying it. So that is the end of talking about the Gucci family. I actually knew a lot more about Louis Vuitton than I did for Gucci, so I had to have extensive notes on this, but I thought that their history is very interesting, very tumultuous, and yeah, so that was all about Gucci. As you can see, I'm kind of repping Gucci with the colors. Like, I got this a long time ago. Look how cute that is. I found it on Etsy. They weren't trying to be Gucci or anything, but just have the colors on it. But yeah, also, if I seemed really out of breath, I am. It is hot where I live. It's like 90 degrees, and even though we have air conditioning, it's still really hot. So I'm kind of like but anyway, that was the end of this video. If you want to stick around and see what other videos I decide to post on here, please subscribe and hit the bell notification. Also, check me out on Instagram. I'm a lot more active on there than I am on here, although I am trying to add to my shorts on here, but it's just so much easier to post things on Instagram. And with all that businessy stuff out of the way, me and Emmy back there are going to say, see you in the next video.
All that's left is a window to my soul. Come and get it.